Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2020 Fall Address. I'm Sean Rafferty, Chairperson of the University Senate. It will be my honor to introduce President Rodriguez to you today as we consider the future of our university with a focus on the themes of social justice and diversity. I often remark to my students that recent years, all of their adulthood, have been far from normal. As a nation, in the state of New York, in the Capital District, and here at UAlbany, we have faced many unforeseen challenges. Chief among these have been a series of controversial actions by the current administration in Washington and the COVID-19 pandemic. New restrictions on immigration affect our international staff and students. The trauma of police shootings affect our staff and students of color. National discussions on endemic racism arising from the Black Lives Matter movement spark similar discussions here at UAlbany, and the pandemic we now face together affects the least advantaged among us worst of all. All of these challenges follow through lines of social justice and the benefits of cultural diversity. America's institutions of higher learning have long been agents of struggle against injustice and prejudice. An appreciation of the richness of human diversity must be part of a modern education if we are to prevail in the face of such challenges. As an institution of higher learning, we must all do our part to ensure that the arc of history continues to bend towards justice, even as at times it seems to go the other way. While these are my opinions, I feel that they are shared by my faculty colleagues and students, by university administration and professional staff, and by all participating in UAlbany's shared governance. I am happy to report that the University Senate has given these issues priority, for example, in a recent resolution recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day. The Senate has been an active participant in ensuring a just and diverse university environment. President Rodriguez will now deliver an opening address and then respond to your questions. We also have available the members of the President's leadership team to offer their input on your questions. Some questions have come already, but please feel free to add your questions using the Q&A function in Zoom. Questions may be grouped by topic and may not be asked in the order received. We will do our best to address all the questions we can in the time allowed. Without further ado, it is my honor and my privilege to introduce our University President, Dr. Avidan Rodriguez.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you all for joining us today. I hope that you are doing well and that you and your loved ones are staying healthy. We know these are difficult times for us all, and we sincerely appreciate your ongoing perseverance, hard work, engagement to this great institution and to our students. 1 year ago tomorrow, we met in the Campus Center Ballroom for the Fall 2019 University Address. Here's how I started that university address, and I quote, "There are many challenges that impact institutions of higher education throughout the country, and we are not immune to those challenges, whether it be the demographic changes that are taking place, the economic issues that we confront, technological innovations that are transforming our world, as well as living and learning in a global society where geographical boundaries are increasingly blurred." End of quote. It now seems like a glaring omission that a global pandemic was not on this list of challenges. What has taken place over the past 8 months demonstrates the critical importance of ongoing planning, mitigation, and preparation. While we could have not anticipated a global pandemic, understanding the importance of adapting to these changes and these changing conditions served us well. There is a lot to say about how we accomplished this, but first, let's watch this video that highlights some of our achievements across our 5 core strategic priorities.
COVID-19 has changed everything, right? And it has upended higher ed as we know it. It has upended UAlbany. It has impacted our students, our faculty, our staff across campus. And I am in awe of the way that the university has responded. I am in awe of the way our students have responded.
This was a virus we didn't know about 9 months ago. It was an unknown, didn't exist. And now it's literally impacting millions and millions of people.
The one thing I can say is I'm very proud of the way that this institution has actually stepped forward and reimagining how we work with our communities.
If the pandemic proves anything, it's how important international teams are to solving the world's problems.
As long as everyone works together, I feel like we can overcome anything.
When we consider where we are right now, we're quite honestly in a space that we've not been in, at least in my lifetime. We have an opportunity to do things a bit differently. We at the University at Albany have a responsibility to really be one UAlbany.
Here at the University at Albany, the past year was marked by both historic celebrations and unprecedented challenges. Throughout 2019, UAlbany celebrated the 175th anniversary of its founding as New York State's first institution of public higher education. But by early 2020, our world had been turned upside down by the coronavirus. As we worked through the impacts of this devastating pandemic, another crisis emerged. The killing of George Floyd catalyzed a national reckoning on race, with massive protests and new calls to finally address the systemic racism and social injustice that permeate our society.
It's in times of crisis that true greatness shines through. It's been really inspiring to see how this community has come together as one UAlbany, continuing to move toward our mission, vision, and our academic goals as well.
We're always guided by our values and priorities, but this year, the strong foundation of our strategic plan has really helped us weather this storm.
When you look at our success this year with enrollment and retention, it's very clear. We have an excellent roadmap in place to achieve our ultimate goal, the success of our students.
So the student success strategy, bottom line, is about making sure that we personalize the student support structure for all of our students. So just as it's equally important that we built a 4-year advising model, it is just as important that we brought the health center back to campus. We've been able to address some of their issues financially with the micro grants that we've been able to put into place. We now have advisors who review students' records for TAP compliance. The students recognize that we recognize them. This year alone, there were a couple of students that said, "Thank you so much for reaching out. I didn't know if I was going to come back or not. I didn't know, if I was going to be able to stay another semester at UAlbany. Thanks for reaching out to me. Thanks for letting me know that I'm important to this community." It's really crazy that we have our highest retention numbers in years in the middle of COVID, and I just think it speaks volumes to the commitment of this university to making sure that our students have every opportunity for success. I think it's really wonderful.
Here at the University at Albany, the research effort has contributed to the greater good in so many ways. In March, when COVID really hit the capital region, the president was tasked by the governor to understand why Latinx and Black communities are affected disproportionately. And at the RNA Institute, we realized we could make a difference and do COVID-19 research. The partnership with School of Public Health was essential. One of the real strengths of the University at Albany is bringing together multidisciplinary teams, and what we chose to do was something called surveillance pooled testing. And we've ramped up so we can do 5,000 tests a week. We're going to continue to ramp up so that we can test everyone weekly, and that may be more than 10,000 a week so that we can keep everyone safe on campus.
UAlbany is an institution that enjoys a very rich level of diversity. Inclusive excellence is what we do, and we've been recognized by Insights into Diversity with the Higher Education Excellence and Diversity Award, not once, not twice, but 3 successive years, and that's something I think we can really be proud of. We're initiating climate committees to further entrench the work. We also have mentoring. It gives us the ability to craft for us what it is that we say we aspire to when we say that we're an institution of inclusive excellence.
It may seem like this was a bad year for internationalization, but I can assure you that even though the world is more complicated, the university has not retreated in any way from its engagement with the world. We can't send students abroad right now, and we can't receive students from abroad right now, but we've done other things to ensure that students remain with the opportunity to engage with their peers across the world. Much of it is virtual now. We have COIL, a collaborative online international learning, so that we can continue with language study, internships, and study abroad experiences. I think that the University of Albany should be proud of the tremendous care and support that it afforded all of the international students and scholars that for whatever reason were left stranded or had difficulty in returning home.
I'm here as an international student. I'm originally from Rwanda, and yeah, I'm a Great Dane. When I first heard about the pandemic, I was really scared. It was like a really tricky position to be in as an international student because there was a lot of pressure, scared to never see your family again, or scared to be deported and you miss on your education. So it was really like amazing to see, like, despite everything going on, the university was able to still like try to reach out to every individual student. That was amazing. My mom is also a former alumni here, and my brother went here, so it's a school that has been really great to our family, and we feel like we belong to the community. So me graduating will mean a lot to my family, and of course, it's gonna be 3 Great Danes in our family, so yeah.
One of the goals and missions of a public university is what is it doing to provide a public purpose, a public benefit to society. And that is done through experiential education, is done through service opportunities, is done through community-based participatory research, and it's just done through volunteerism. I'm very proud of the way that this institution has stepped forward in reimagining how we work with our communities. The School of Education created the remoteed.org website to ensure that the academic performance of students in the K-12 school districts are not going to suffer. We're also trying to address issues of food security. How is not having access to food going to impact their quality of life, particularly in minoritized communities? And so those are the things that we as a university can be helping when we talk with our communities to say, how do we make life easier for you in order to make this possible? And we need more of that kind of thinking up front.
I want to thank you, every member of our campus communities, for your very hard work and commitment, which is the true source of our success. Because of you, we know greatness. And I look forward to continuing to work collectively and collaboratively with all of you as one UAlbany, and to move forward in reaching our institutional vision to be the nation's leading diverse public research university. And never ever forget that we are the Great Danes. What an outstanding video. This is why I love this university. It is truly amazing to recognize many of our accomplishments during this past year, even in the middle of a pandemic. Of course, one of our primary objectives was responding to the coronavirus with detailed and careful plans. With the leadership of the UAlbany Forward Together team, made up of about 200 faculty, staff, and students, we developed and implemented those plans, adapting and changing course as circumstances changed and new information became available. The provost, the vice president for finance and administration, and the vice president for student affairs, their teams, and many others played an instrumental role in this process. We would certainly not be here without the ongoing commitment and very hard work of so many in our university community. Our most profound gratitude goes to all of them and to all of you. We are also doing much better than anticipated in the space of COVID, thanks in large part to our in-house surveillance testing program led by the RNA Institute and the School of Public Health. Of course, equally important are the health and safety measures we put in place: physical distancing, mandatory mask usage, improved HVAC and air handling, directional signage, hand hygiene, increased and widespread communication, and a shared understanding that what we do to stay safe, we do for others as much as for ourselves. Today, we will hit another major milestone, reaching 15,000 individual saliva samples tested since September 1. This is quite remarkable. As Andy Berglund indicated in the video, starting next week, we will be ramping up our surveillance system to weekly for all students and employees who spend time on campus. This testing protocol will continue throughout the spring. Let me also highlight that the work that made it possible for us to welcome students back to campus this fall was truly incredible. Against all odds, we had great success in terms of our fall enrollment. While we did miss our undergraduate enrollment targets, we exceeded our graduate target by over 200 students. In fact, as you can see on the chart, our graduate numbers are the highest they've been since 2013. While we were down in out-of-state and international students, this impact could have been much worse. Another bright spot is our first to second year retention rate, which increased from 79% last fall to 83% this fall. As Dean Malatesta highlighted in the video, this increase in the middle of a pandemic is truly extraordinary. It is also noteworthy that the enrollment in the Honors College increased from 128 students last year to 251 this year. I recently had the opportunity to visit an Honors College hybrid class in the Lecture Center to discuss my research and publications. I was very impressed with the engagement of these students, and it also helped me understand the complexities of teaching a course in a hybrid format while trying to keep all students engaged, whether remote or in person. We're also very excited about the progress on our eTech building, which will be the epicenter for our forward-facing programs in the future. Another bright spot has been the success of our fundraising campaign. The fact that we reached a $150 million goal and that we reached that target several months early in the middle of a pandemic was truly remarkable. So let me take this opportunity to thank you for your extremely hard work under very difficult circumstances to get us there. However, as we all know, this was our goal, but not the finish line. We appreciate the strong commitment and ongoing work of our UAlbany staff, faculty, students, and our leadership team, which has resulted in this very positive news in the midst of a pandemic. I also want to highlight that we have also made important investments this year. We increased student scholarships by $7.5 million. We hired 10 additional advisors, and we invested $1 million in marketing to increase UAlbany's visibility nationally and globally. We will continue to make these strategic investments despite what is, unfortunately, a very troubling financial picture. Vice President Foreman made a very detailed budget presentation in last week's budget forum. As you know, we are dealing with a projected $59 million shortfall for the 2020-2021 academic year. Also, Vice Presidents Foreman and Diaz just sent out a memo on Monday focused on state contracts and MOU process changes. They stated that, effective immediately, all expenditure plans that fall under New York State funded contracts and MOUs must be based on 80% of the contract or MOU value. This applies to state and RF agreements. This, of course, will have significant impacts on the services these groups and projects provide and on the staff in these units. As you know, Much of our communications over the past 8 months have been focused on health, safety, and COVID-19. We have also kept you fully up to date regarding our financial situation. However, we need to make sure that we are still moving forward on initiatives related to our core strategic priorities. Today, I would like to spend some time highlighting where we stand on one of these priority areas, specifically diversity and inclusion. The national reckoning on race has certainly intensified our sense of urgency to continue building on our long-standing commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are developing a holistic approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion that flows from our strategic plan with several key initiatives. Earlier this year, I convened a Diversity and Inclusive Excellence Task Force to review our activities in the diversity space and to make recommendations about how to align this work and move more effectively toward our strategic goals. I am pleased to report that I received the task force report and recommendations, and I want to thank the almost 30 members of this very diverse task force representing faculty, staff, and students. One of their key recommendations is a new committee structure with a Diversity and Inclusive Excellence Committee convened to oversee and provide guidance on the implementation of our plans. As Sam mentioned in the video, we have established climate committees in each school and college. We are also expanding the climate committees to administrative divisions, starting with student affairs and finance and administration. We need to continue to expand, strengthen, and support these climate committees. The schools and colleges, deans and vice presidents, as well as all of you and all of us must play a critical role in this process. Also, based on student feedback, I am very pleased that we have launched a bias incidence response protocol where campus community members can report a suspected hate crime or a bias-related incident to a bias incidence response team, which is made up of key staff from multiple offices. Also, to address requests from our university community for increased training on diversity and inclusion, we've expanded offerings with several new programs. For example, this fall, we expanded the Inclusive Danes orientation program for all first-year students, renamed Intersections. Faculty and staff have also new workforce diversity training requirements, and we are implementing an implicit bias training designed for all university employees. In support of our efforts, this month we also kicked off a series of events designed to unpack the historical factors that have created racial injustice in the U.S., some inspired by content from the New York Times 1619 Project. The New York State Writers Institute has also embarked on a major fall symposium and community call to action entitled The Time for Reckoning: Confronting Systemic Racism, Seeking Justice, and Reimagining Society. In addition, I am very pleased to report that we are making significant new investments in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space at the University at Albany. First of all, we are creating a $500,000 endowment for ODI strategic initiatives, and our Division of Advancement will work with donors to match this $500K to increase the endowment to $1 million or more. We've also allocated $136,000 to ODI for programmatic initiatives. And similar to our STAR proposals or accelerator grants, another $150,000 has been earmarked for initiatives with a sustainable impact on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I am also very pleased to report that El Dr. Alfredo Medina, Executive Director of the Office of Public Engagement, and Tibisay Hernandez, Assistant Director for Employer Relations and Career and Professional Development, have both been partially reassigned to work with ODI. Also, the William Randolph Hearst Foundation recently awarded a $1 million grant to the Center for the Elimination of Health Disparities. The grant further recognizes UAlbany's leadership role in addressing this important issue at the regional, statewide, and the national level. It is also very important to reiterate that Governor Cuomo commissioned UAlbany to lead a research study on the disproportionate impacts of COVID-19 on communities of color. Thanks to SUNY, we have a grant of about $355,000 for this project, which has engaged over 35 researchers from a diversity of academic fields. So as you can see, our strong commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion is reflected not only on our past accomplishments, but on our institutional vision, our strategic plan, our ongoing strategies and initiatives, and through our investments and institutional commitments. Although yes, there is much more to be done, we are building on a strong foundation thanks to you. However, to meet our potential, this work truly requires the engagement of every single member of our campus community. While I have focused today on diversity and inclusion, please know that the work on other strategic core priorities is moving forward as well, and we have made great strides as highlighted in the video. We are now focused on planning for the spring semester. The provost has been working very closely with the deans to develop a full schedule to allow students to begin registration in mid-November. From all indications, next year will look a lot like this year. But Provost Kim will update the campus as soon as the academic continuity team works through the many issues under discussion. Meanwhile, I do not want us to forget the discussion we started at last year's fall address about where we will be as an institution over the next 2, 5, and 10 years. We have to ask ourselves, who are we? Where do we want to go? And how do we get there? The pandemic, yes, has made it difficult to envision the future as we have spent much of our time focused on COVID-19 and the health of our campus community, and rightfully so. However, this time has also put a spotlight on some of the signature strengths I mentioned last year, such as emergency preparedness, public health, education, public policy, the RNA Institute, and social welfare, among others, which have been truly instrumental in our response to COVID-19. Also, given the escalating impacts of climate change, our expertise in atmospheric science and climate-related research will be more critical than ever. The urgent need to address systemic racism will continue to leverage our national reputation in criminal justice, public policy, and health disparities. Scholars and researchers across campus have important perspectives that are necessary to our understanding of these critical societal issues. In fact, an interdisciplinary approach is the only way we can effectively address these critical challenges. Of course, our E-Tech building will be a key venue for this work. I truly think that we are moving toward a framework for the future, a future that will look different than today, where UAlbany can be even more resilient and more focused on the ways we can best meet the needs of our students, our communities, and the planet. As a community, we need to keep moving forward in accordance with our strategic plan, with a strong focus on our scholarship and research endeavors as a Research One institution. Now, don't get me wrong. I am well aware of the enormity of the challenges before us. According to a recent nationwide survey of presidents, their top 5 major concerns revolve around student, faculty, and staff mental health issues, long-term financial sustainability, and enrollment. These are indeed critical issues for us as well at the University at Albany. Clearly, addressing these challenges will not be easy. Unfortunately, things will probably become a bit more difficult and complicated before they get better. There will be many obstacles along the road. Some will doubt our ability to succeed and will continue to challenge us and put obstacles along the way. However, our people, our achievements, our strengths, and the tremendous opportunities before us are also great reasons for optimism. Yes, this is an important call to action in the most difficult of times, but this is where true leadership shines. This is where our passion, engagement, and commitment will come through to make us a stronger and more resilient institution. Colleagues, I know it is difficult to quantify how challenging the past 8 months have been for our community, the nation, and the world. The ongoing and massive loss of life and disruption from COVID-19, the ensuing economic hardships, the legacy of centuries of systemic racism in this country, and the daily assault of a national political conversation have so deeply divided us and has generated so much chaos. Unfortunately, there is a lot of anger, fear, and uncertainty as our world has truly been turned upside down. However, we in higher education have a special responsibility in this environment to focus on science, knowledge, and innovative and compassionate solutions that will help us move our society forward. As members of the UAlbany community, our shared values of access, integrity, inclusive excellence, and the common good keep us centered on our moral compass. As engaged citizens, if you have not already done so, I hope you will cast a vote in this election that reflects your understanding of those values and the kind of future you want to create for your family, our communities, and our students. Regardless of the outcome of the election, our mission, vision, values, and our commitment at UAlbany will remain intact. The campus will be a place of civil discourse that honors freedom of speech. We need to develop an inclusive and welcoming climate. And as the great James Baldwin once said, those who say it can't be done usually get interrupted by others doing it. So let's get out there and be the ones doing it. Let's build on the amazing things we have achieved together as one UAlbany. And let's unleash greatness for our students, for our communities, and for our world. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much, President Rodriguez. I know we have some questions from the audience, so let's get right to it. We've had a few questions that have come in through email in the days prior. I will read 3 of these. One of them, the first, was rather lengthy, so I've condensed it a bit, but in essence, as of April 2019, only 8% of UAlbany's faculty were people of color, and only 6 faculty have been recruited by SUNY's Prodig program in the last year. There is a general underrepresentation of women and people in color on major governing bodies such as the President's Executive Council, the University Council, or the Dean's Council. And the question is, what is UAlbany doing to re-envision a leadership team that furthers a more equitable vision of university leadership?
Thank you, Sean, for the question. And let me take that question. And I believe that the answer to this question really falls at the heart of what I discussed today. But let me focus on a few key issues that were raised in this question. However, as I always tell my executive council, incorrect data leads to incorrect conclusions. Please know that the diversity of our senior leadership throughout the campus has been a critical issue for me since I arrived at the University at Albany. Let me highlight that 28% of our full-time faculty are faculty of color, not 8%, which is up from 25% in 2014. A bit over 10% of our full-time faculty are from underrepresented minority backgrounds, which include Black or African Americans, Hispanic or Latinx, Native American, and Pacific Islander. Although these numbers are in par with national averages across R1 universities, we have to do much, much better, especially in the URM space, underrepresented minorities. Also, we are now trying to get approval from SUNY for funding for 6 prodigy hires out of 22 hires this past year, which is about 28% of our hires. Further, it's not correct to indicate that there are 0 Black individuals as part of the President's Executive Council. Samuel Caldwell, who is an African American, sits on the Executive Council. I actually added this position to the Executive Council shortly after I arrived to the University at Albany. Also, let us not forget that UAlbany's president is the first Latino president of a 4-year SUNY institution. Further, over a year ago, we hired an outstanding provost, Dr. Carol Kim, who is of Asian American heritage. 3 of the Executive Council members are female. This, in fact, is quite a diverse Executive Council. Also, at the University Council level, which is constituted by the governor of the great state of New York, it is also quite diverse, actually, with 3 of the 8 appointments being of African American heritage. Among our 4 deans, 4 are female and 1 is a female Latina. Our most recent dean appointment for the College of Arts and Sciences. Felicidades, Doctora Janet Altarriba. So there you have it. Now, do we need to make more progress in this space? Absolutely. Are we there yet? No, we're not. However, it is also critical that we have accurate data before arriving at these conclusions. These initiatives on the diversity and inclusive excellence front that I outlined today are not only to make us more inclusive, but to promote increased diversity across our faculty and staff and across our academic and administrative leadership. But this inclusion and expansion of diversity, both in terms of numbers and inclusivity, also begins at the department level, at the school level, at the college level, and at the administrative units level. So I think we're headed in the right direction, although we are certainly not there yet. Thank you, Sean.
So our next question relates to the Office of Diversity and Inclusion and simply reads, what plans are there to sustain the momentum and award-winning significance around such issues as Black Lives Matter by the Office of Diversity and Inclusion?
And I think that in my remarks, I addressed that question quite systematically as to what we're doing as an institution to support the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I'm going to pass it on to Sam Caldwell, and he might have additional comments for this question. Sam?
Thank you very much, President Rodriguez. This is a good question. I appreciate the scope, so thank you very much. I'd underscore how important it is as we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, the things that we're currently focused on, and where it is that we look to go, by really focusing on the importance of the climate committees that we spoke about a bit earlier. So the work that needs to be done from a diversity perspective isn't work that's going to be taken solely by the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. It needs to be a campus-wide effort because what we do affects all of us. So by bringing in additional resources into the office, as the president outlined a moment ago, in the persons of Dr. Medina and Tibisay Hernandez, what we'll have is a bit more structure and more resources that are going to help us leverage the climate committee structure. And climate committees are simply extensions of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion that reside within each of the schools and colleges. With respect to what's going on in the Black Lives Matter movement, there were a number of issues that were raised during the student forum last fall. We'll be engaging or continuing to engage in conversations with students with respect to some of those concerns. We'll also be looking to identify ways that we can continue to just simply do the work of diversity and inclusion, which speaks to racial justice and speaks to social justice. So I don't see these as things that we're going to identify individually, but it's a collective work. So as the president noted, I think telling our story a little bit better relative to what we've accomplished, what we're looking to do to improve the climate around diversity and inclusive excellence, and to ensure that the initiatives that we're currently undertaking and plan to undertake, which will be outlined in an upcoming compendium on diversity and inclusive excellence, is going to help so that we can start from at least a shared base of understanding relative to how we move forward as One U Albany. Thank you.
And the last question that we've had come in advance is as follows, and it relates to university funding. What is the university doing to affect the rise of tuition and fees and fight for increased state support for the university at Albany?
And we're actively engaged on these fronts in many areas. And I'm going to ask our Vice President for Finance and Administration, Todd Foreman, and our Vice President for Government Relations and Community Engagement, Sheila Seary, to provide some answers to these questions.
Great. Thank you so much for the question. Affordability is always on top of mind for us. I mean, we know that the SUNY system is a very affordable system across the nation, and we know that debt among our students is one of the lowest in the nation. But we're not satisfied with that. We want to see more state aid. So every year we get together with other SUNY youth centers who we're in constant communication with, and the other SUNY institutions to talk with our members together and separately about fighting for more state aid. We want to see more state aid always. Do know that we're always competing with areas of the budget, state budget, that are growing, like education, like healthcare. Those are areas that continue to get a larger share. So I think together we need to work together as a community, students, faculty, staff, to join forces and to work in conversations together with our elected officials to look out for expanding that pie for us, making up some of the losses in that share, and then shifting the pendulum away from such a reliance on tuition and away from state aid. But I think that, like I said, the best thing we can do is come together. But it is always our desire to be most affordable for our students, to look out for students. We know the many competing challenges that they have, and we want students to be able to concentrate on their studies and not have to work also. So that would be how, so I welcome, I welcome the participation in the advocacy process with our office. Thank you.
And Sheila, if I can just add to that, the number one thing that I look to do is to make sure that all of the faculty, staff, and students understand what makes up our budget, where our revenue comes from. And when you look at it, you see that only 11% of our operating budget comes from the state of New York. So the remainder of it comes from primarily out of pocket from students. I think that gives me some 22,000 people who can go out there and be advocates for our university system, including all of our alumni as well. So that people who are misled or misinformed to think that we are completely state funded, they're educated, they're aware, and they can use their vote next week to help us in this regard.
So, hello, everyone. My name is Zena Lawrence, and I am going to moderate the questions that have come through the Q&A. And the first one that we received is actually, I think, very important one, because it speaks to both the political and the social climate on campus. So I will address this to you, President Rodriguez, and then you could forward it to whom you think is appropriate. It reads, with the opening that was just given by Mr. Rafferty and UAlbany being a beacon of inclusivity, how should those who lean right and are more conservative in their political views feel with the clear bias the university representation is showing at a public university?
Let me just start, and thank you, Zena, for the questions. Good to see you as well, and thanks for the question that's being posed. I think, as we made very clear in my introductory remarks, the university will stand by freedom of speech. We want to develop an inclusive campus excellence where everybody feels welcome, where everybody is welcome, where anybody and everybody can feel free to share their ideas, to make their recommendations, in the space of mutual respect, in order to respect the rights and the views of others. This university will continue to support that. We want to make things in this climate, in this university community, a place where people feel that they can express themselves, but we have to allow everybody to express themselves. That said, this institution is strongly committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. This university is strongly committed to racial and social justice. This institution needs to be and has to be a beacon of light in these troubling times. This doesn't mean exclusion. This doesn't mean that we'll set other people's ideas and remarks apart. They are all welcome and should be part of our ongoing conversations.
Thank you very much for that insightful answer, President Rodriguez. We turn to a question to Todd. So Todd, your presentation was thorough, but disturbing, and for many of us. And the question is, and this is the words of the author, I should note. When will we learn more about the reductions needed to address the deficit?
I've never heard one of my presentations described as disturbing, but I understand where that's coming from. It is certainly scary and creating a lot of anxiety, as it should. And we could use that stress and that anxiety to lean in and engage as a university together to address some of these challenges. But to specifically answer the question, we are sharing details that we know already. We've identified how we're going to address half of the $38 million cuts that we have to institute on a permanent basis. And that has resulted in 214 vacancies that won't be filled. We've shared where those vacancies are hitting the university, as well as where we've had to cut OTPS budgets. The specific impacts of OTPS budgets or temp service cuts are difficult to measure and to speak at in a public forum. Those detailed discussions take place more at the divisional levels and at the unit levels. Most people are interested, of course, is where are the cuts going to come on the academic side of the house. And the provost has put together a well thought out, very strategic approach to having those conversations, but those decisions have not yet been made. And I think more will come on that conversation over the course of this academic year.
Thank you very much, Todd. We have a question that may go to President Rodriguez, but also may go to Jim and to Todd. It's about the SUNY faculty or UAlbany faculty who are paid through RF funding. And the question reads, will campus staff that work at SUNY Albany, though paid through URF funding, be considered and included in these efforts? I'm making the assumption that the efforts are both the inclusivity and diversity efforts, as well as the reduction planning. They are not currently included, nor have their voices been heard on campus and in campus governance. So again, I think that maybe Jim could speak a little bit to that, as well as to Todd and President Rodriguez as well.
Yeah, let me first pick up on that, because I think it's a critically important question. And and the staff and employees that work for the RF Foundation, they are University at Albany employees and staff as well, and they are part of the university family. So our role and our responsibility is to also keep them engaged and involved. And we have, I believe, we have done that. Can we do better? Absolutely. But let me also refer, because this is related to the initial question on the budget. And please, I want to remind folks, and don't think that we are standing idly by, letting our funds being cut, or not taking proactive actions in order to address these issues systematically. For example, just recently, regarding one of our programs that is funded by the RF funds or state funds, we've written letters to our federal delegation. We are writing letters to our state delegation. We're sending letters to the Department of Budget. I just sent a letter to the SUNY Chancellor highlighting all these issues and the problems that we're confronting when our funds are reduced. So the university is really taking a proactive approach. In addition to dealing with our challenges, we're trying to take a very aggressive and proactive approach to try to minimize our losses. So there's a lot of people, there's a lot of great people working on this. But let me also refer this question to both Todd and Jim Diaz.
Well, I certainly, as the Vice President for Research and leading the Division of Research, have always encouraged our RF employees. And I think that Abidaan articulated exactly correctly. They may get a different paycheck, but they're still UAlbany employees, to participate in the life of the university and all 5 of the strategic priorities of the university. And sometimes it's just that a lot of what we do is transactional and people don't see us all the time. And but for example, Adrian participates on the President's Council. And I've encouraged my people to, whenever they want to get permission from their supervisors to participate in the life of the university. I encourage it. And so if there are people in the Research Foundation who really want to participate and need me to be that communicator to get you involved, reach out to me and I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, I'll echo the comments of the president and the VPR. Don't really see much difference between where an employee receives their paycheck from. I mean, we have members from our university auxiliary services, we have members of our foundation, we have state employees, we have RF employees. They're all part of the University at Albany family. And if there's ways that we can, or there are gaps in how we are communicating with people or where we're inviting people to the table, then let's address those specifically and button that up.
Thank you all. We have time for just one more question. I'm actually going to ask 2 because they're related to how we're kind of wrapping up for the day. The first one was specifically about the 2 leaders that were reassigned to ODI. The question was, could the names be repeated for the audience? And the second one was about where this address will reside, whether or not it will be available for viewing online at a later time.
I'm happy to care for that first question regarding the 2 leaders partially assigned to the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. That would be Dr. Alfredo Medina of the Office of Public Engagement and Tibisay Hernandez from the Office of Career and Professional Development.
Thank you so much. And I think that as normal, when we wrap up our sessions, the moderator usually tells us where we can find the presentation at a later time. So I will leave that to the closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sean and Zena, for moderating this session. And thank you all for your efforts and your leadership at the University Senate. I also want to thank my executive council team for making themselves available. I also need to thank Ron, Colleen, and everyone at PDP Studio for making this excellent production possible. I also want to extend my gratitude to the Office of Communication and Marketing for just an exceptional video they put together, my Chief of Staff, Bruce Celeste and Alice Oldfather, for all the work they did today in order to make this possible. Again, thank you all for your questions and engagement here today. And of course, thank you all for everything you do on a daily basis for this university community and for all that you will continue to do in the future. By the way, I hope you will all join us tomorrow, Thursday at 6 p.m. for our first ever virtual Citizen Laureate celebration. An invitation is already in your inbox. And yes, we will make available the recording of this university address, and we will let you know when it is available. I look forward to the day that when we all can together come together in person so that we can celebrate our successes. Meanwhile, please stay safe, stay healthy, and stay engaged. Muchísimas gracias. And Sean, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you, President Rodriguez. And thank you to everyone for their participation in this event. If we were unable to get to your questions, we will be forwarding these to the President's office for consideration. If you have additional questions, please feel free to send those to me as chair of the University Senate or to the Senate general email address, senate@albany.edu. Thank you to all, and stay safe.